Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the All Stars Club podcast. Today, we are on episode 3. If you had missed the first two, we had the first one with BT and the second one with Avery. Please go check those out. Those are on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Please like, subscribe, and then comment whatever you like. But today, we have a very special guest, probably the longest tenured coach at Club All Star, a man of many jobs. I know him as the Iron Mike. So it is Cisco, the Iron Mike Prado. And again, I will put the clapping thing in there like I did for Avery's. But it's good to have you. This has been a long time coming. We've tried to make this happen a long time, and we're glad to do it today. So we'll start off, just introduce yourself. Whatever you feel like the people need to know about you, just let us know, and then we'll get right into it.
Okay, well, like Noah said, I've been here a while. I actually played at Club All-Star when I was 13, 14, a little bit in high school. I kept in contact with JD. When I was in junior college, I actually worked here over the weekends. So I'd, go practice, go to class over the weekends. I'd work here. When I was done, I, made the decision not to take out any more student loans and work here full time. And JD was gracious enough to give me a job here full time, doing some maintenance stuff around here, but then also coaching. And then he's taken me to a bunch of different things. Yeah. He's done a lot in my life just to grow me as a person and as a coach. And I'm very, very grateful to be here.
So we will start all the way back. So from Stockton in St. Mary's High School.
Yep.
I want to go even further than that. We mentioned playing Club All-Star at like 13, 14. You don't have to go into what Cisco Prado looked like at 13, 14, but what at that time did Club All-Star kind of look like, right? Because obviously Stockton, everybody knows kind of the area, right?
Right.
From the Diaz brothers obviously being who they are, and so Stockton bringing that to attention. But baseball has a really good scene out here that a lot of people don't know about.
Right.
So talk about how Club All-Star looked back then.
Yeah, so going back then, I was a little different than some guys. Like, I didn't really know about travel ball. Back then, it wasn't as common as it is now. So I actually went through Little League all my years, until I was 12, finished the youth stuff. Wanted something a little bit different, something a little bit more challenging. So I just did a quick Google search on what other baseball academies or baseball programs there were around here, and landed on Club All-Star. My mom paid for the fall training program, which at the time was our practices, so club practices as well. But he let other people also join in.
Nice.
Yeah, which was really cool.
That's pretty sweet.
And that was great. So we were actually out here. Our main facility was at Monte Diablo. It was a cage, an outdoor turf area, like 3 cages, a good workout area. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
But we actually did our fall training program stuff out here at the Hebe before we got a long-term lease with the city.
Yep.
So we'd spend one day here, one day there. It was twice a week. And JD likes to tell this story. I came in, I had long hair, like the Tim Lincecum hair, I loved him. He says I was wearing pajamas, but I was wearing my Little League uniform. It was Pirates pinstripes. I had one black sock on, one white yellow sock on. It was a thing in Little League.
Yep.
And
the swag.
And then he says, oh, it's nice that his mom, let him come out here to play some baseball. But then I started throwing the ball, and he quickly, soon after that, he asked me to come play for him. So that's when I started, and that was my first introduction to high level training.
Yeah.
High level training. I had Coach Damien.
Yep.
So I really got thrown to the fire there.
The
but
guy.
He was he was fantastic. His thing, like, if you worked hard and you actually tried to do the adjustments that he was asking you to do, we had no problems. Yeah. So. First introduction to high-level training, I loved it. I couldn't get enough. During the summers, my mom worked in Stockton, so she would drop me off at the Monte Diablo location, and I would just literally stay there all day until she picked me up, just hitting, working around the cage a little bit to pay for lessons or whatever, So I really found a home here, and JD and Damien, they welcomed me with open arms, But the training here, that really is what sets us apart.
And was it like, was it eye opening for the fact that you were able to like, because I know for me like it was Mike Murphy's where I really started to like. The training went from I'm hitting in the backyard with my dad to this guy actually knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Like, was it that switch, or was it just like the fact that you got to go to cages? Like, because that was another thing for kids too. Like they go to the park all the time and then they go to cages and they're like, whoa, like what is this?
Yeah. So actually, I went to Western Little League, and we had a cage, and my coach actually was the president of the Little League.
Oh, nice.
So I gotta go to the field or to the cages whenever I wanted to, and so I did with my dad. He would throw me BP, but there wasn't instruction.
Yeah, it was good job.
It was great. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It got me where I needed to be, at least to make a team.
Yeah.
Which was great. But then, when I got to Club All-Star, it was a completely different world.
Yeah.
Like they actually trained me on technique.
That you didn't even know.
That I didn't even know. I'm like, okay, field ball, throw ball, see ball, hit ball.
Yeah.
Let's throw it over that white thing. And but then when I got there, they started talking about locations and working through balls, drop step in, funnel, hands out, just technique stuff, right? Yeah, I got a little bit in Little League, but it wasn't. It's nothing.
It's never anything like right foot then left. Like they never tell you what steps to make or anything like that.
Like, hey, left of center, catch the ball, throw the ball.
They'll never do, and it's not. I mean, and we talk about this a lot, but like it's not any of their fault. They just don't know any of that.
Yeah,
stuff.
they don't know. They do their best. Honestly, like I've never, and I'll tell you right now, I will never discredit any Little League coach at all. They're out there, they're volunteering their time.
That's the thing. They just pick to do that.
They choose to do that. They volunteer.
You.
Like it's a hard job. They're trying to wrangle kids.
It's like
no
herding
attention
cats.
span.
Yeah,
exactly. Like that. And my Little League coaches actually were pretty decent as well.
It, especially in this area, there's a lot of, and maybe it's just people who lived here and stayed here and give back to the community, like obviously JD and people like that. But I feel like the dads have. And it's like, they played sports. So it's like they know what they're doing just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're moving from Little League. Let's go to high school. So we go to St. Mary's High School in Stockton.
St. Mary's, yep.
And then is that where we start to transition to the catcher position? Or was it always, I'm more of a catcher kind of thing?
So I always caught.
Yeah.
I always caught throughout our Little League, through our club. Actually, I would catch, I would play short, some third base, and when I got to club, JD, it's actually another funny conversation. JD told my mom, hey, he's a pitcher.
Huh.
And my mom was like, no, he's a catcher. And JD was like, hey, I've been doing this a long time.
I know what
this is his famous, it was his best quote. I've been doing this a long time. I think I know a thing or two. And he was 100% right. And so he actually pushed me towards pitching. So I would catch, I would pitch, play a little bit in the infield, but mainly behind the dish and pitch. But then at St. Mary's, I would do both. I started having some arm injuries, and so I just transitioned to catching full time. So I pretty much caught throughout my entire high school career. My junior year, actually, we had 3 guys at second base dislocate their shoulders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just a tough luck season. So I played half the year behind the dish, and then I actually had to play second base all throughout the section playoffs. So,
jeez.
Yeah, but then senior year, I was just back to full-time catcher.
There you go.
Yeah, and then in college, just stayed behind the dish.
Yeah, and we'll get to college in a little bit, but so was the arm injury like serious enough to have to like take time off?
Yeah, so I had a bunch of different arm injuries, just pain here, just everywhere, But there was one time I actually had to take 3 months off because if I tried even just lobbing the ball, it would hurt for the next 3 days, you know. I don't exactly know what it was. But I had to take 3 months off. I came back, and it was fine. Like, it was okay. But that was probably the longest I've had to take off for an arm injury.
I was about to say, and then this is always I always like to bring this up because obviously I had a really, really bad injury that most people don't know about. But for people who have been injured, like it's a whole different thing.
Oh, it's completely different.
Whether it's 2 weeks, whether it's 1 month, 3 months, a year, like that time feels like you're stuck in a glass sandbox, and it's just the time goes so slow. So I always like to ask, like, for any kids that hopefully you don't ever get hurt, but for the kids that are listening that may be going through an injury, or a parent who has a kid that's going through an injury, what would be your advice to, and whether it's like, obviously we're not doctors by any means, so please don't think anything that we are about to say is going to cure anybody.
Yeah,
but
not medical advice.
no, this is I will maybe put something on the screen that says whatever we're talking about is not medically advised. We didn't do that for school. I went to art school, so. But I mean, it is good to hear other people's perspectives on these types of things, just because a lot of kids may fit that shoe where it's like, oh, I do feel pain here, here, and here. This is how he did it. So, and even if it's mental, physical, it doesn't really matter, but just some type of advice going forward for kids like that.
Yeah, so like you said, being injured is a completely different thing. So you're never going to feel 100%.
For sure.
Right? You're never going to feel 100%. You know, there's a huge difference between pain and injury.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I pretty much had some sort of discomfort throughout
sort of
my entire
injury,
career. Some sort of pain throughout my entire career, you know, and you just play through it. But like an injury, you know, it's, you physically cannot do something, right? You physically cannot do something. Like, and I've had a bunch of different ones, like from arm to hammy to thumb, you know, you just physically can't do it. It's completely different. So, like, mentality wise, you just need to understand, like, you gotta have a long-term perspective on it, in my opinion.
And so I don't want to cut you off, but I want to ask, because this is where I feel like a lot of athletes can either take the right steps or take the wrong steps. When that happened, was it like, I don't really want to tell coach because I don't want to play, or was it like, no, I need to be accountable for my health, so I will communicate with everybody I have?
So there were two different stages.
Okay, so that's perfect.
There are different stages, because like when I was in high school, I was going through some injuries, right? And so I had, like, there were, like, when I couldn't throw, like literally when I lobbed the ball and then it would just hurt for a few days after that. Yeah, I told him, you know, because it's a detriment to me in my long-term career, and it's a detriment to the team, right? Because I physically can't do something. Yeah. But now, like my senior year, of high school, I did something to my hamstring, a pull, a tear, whatever the PTs were calling it, a tear. Yeah. You know, so I did go out for a month because I literally could not run. I was hobbling around. But that injury usually takes longer than that. For sure. But you know, we went to playoffs, and I wanted to play. Yeah. So, you know, I'm going out there 75%, which is fine. You know, I'd hit the ball, I'd hobble to first base. It is what it is. But I was able to squat down. It was just getting up that was more of an issue.
The stretch of the hamstring.
The stretch of the, exactly. So that one, my coaches knew, and I had the PT clear me. Okay. And she felt like I was able to at least play. Yeah. You know, so it wasn't like it was an illegal clearing. You know, and the only reason I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but but then even in college, like I went St. Mary's College first year, couldn't hack it at the D1 level, dropped down to JUCO, had another injury my last year in junior college. And at that point, I mean, the writing was on the wall. Like, I knew I could go to another 4-year if I wanted to, but I wasn't going to play past that. Yeah. Right. I couldn't hit. I'm also 5'8". Yeah. Right. 190. Yeah. Okay.
Jacked, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Muscle hamster. However, so I tore a ligament in here, right? So I couldn't physically close the mitt, and that's kind of important if you're a catcher. You know, you gotta be able to catch the ball. You gotta be able to catch the ball.
Job description, just a little bit.
So what I did, I took a month off, got a cortisone shot. Yep. You know, came back. I wasn't 100%. Coach gave me another 2 weeks off, and then I played in playoffs and got eliminated in the first round. So then I had to make a decision, but. You know, there are different stages in your career too. For sure. You know, like if this is your last opportunity, like for me, I'm playing, you know. Sure. But if I have a long-term perspective, if I'm younger and I know I'm going to play the next year and the next year and the next year, you know, I'm going to shut it down. No, I agree. And just think about my long-term health. Yeah. No, I mean, and the only reason I really asked that is because obviously a lot of kids, they get into situations where like they have that pain that you're talking about, and they don't really know whether to go to a coach or whoever.
And I only say that because if you aren't comfortable going to anybody, just go to someone. Go to someone you're comfortable with. And this is for parents. Like if you see your kid wincing on the field or moving their arm, like just ask in a calm way. Don't go, oh, you hurt? Because the one thing the kid's not going to want to do is go, yeah, like I'm
you're
hurt.
not gonna want to.
So try to fucking teeter that line just a little bit so you're able to make your athlete the most comfortable. And you say, like, obviously there's different things, and it makes me bring to my situation. So I was in high school, sophomore year, going into sophomore year. And the funny part is December 24th, I still remember it. December 24th, 2015, we went dirt biking, me and my dad. An hour later, I almost lost my right hand. Broke every bone except for one, dislocated the lunate bone, which goes around, cut all my nerves. Like, for those of you at home, that's as much flexion as I can get. Like, for real. Like, that's gravity taking hold. But the craziest part, and like, obviously, and I say this out loud because it's a preface to everybody. Like I got a letter from Oregon State the day before, but it was one of those just recruitment letters. Like, you know, everybody, you know what I mean? Like one of those but it was the first one that I had ever gotten.
Right.
So I was like,
juiced.
Yeah, I was
Excited.
Juiced. And then that happens, and it was 18 months in a cast, 18 months total. 12 months in a cast, 6 months PT. And that was obviously in high school. So for kids who are in high school with an injury like that, I would say just have something that you can do that moves your body, whatever it may be. I took walks. I'd walk my dog and do whatever. Just because the fact of you sitting there as an athlete is one of the worst things that could happen.
Oh, just like for your mental, your mental state.
You're gonna sit there and wallow for hours. And I know that from experience because I did it all the time. But and I know we're getting sidetracked off the tangents, but it's a good thing to hear, especially from both sides. And then on the end of the playing side, right? I've always asked this because I had this 2 years ago when I was done, and it was more of like an acceptance. Like it was like I am cool with what I have done. Like, and there was no, and I see a lot of guys, and like no, like if you fall in this, like don't think I'm like crapping on you or anything, but you see dudes stretch it out, like go for it. Yeah. Like, and that's totally
All power
fine.
to 'em.
More power to you, exactly. Like I got buddies right now still going at it, like Alex Gombiewski out in the volcanoes in Portland, and he's just been grinding it out. More power to you, but I want to talk, where was it more of an acceptance thing, or was it just like you meeting that end of the road?
So it was more of an acceptance thing.
Yeah.
So like I had the perspective of like, because I went to a D1 for a year, and so I knew what
and a very good
player,
D1 too.
St. Mary's College. Like at the time we had Corbin Burns, Tony Gonsolin, a few other guys that got drafted, like legit players, right? So I saw top end talent, right? I saw top end talent. Couldn't hack it there. Yeah. So went to junior college. Played. It was fine. It was a good junior college too. The coach was hard on you, very demanding, which is great.
I feel like that's.
You have to as a junior.
Yeah, because coach. It's I don't know. They say I heard it a lot. It's more of the kids who have talent but not the maturity.
Correct, and I did not have the maturity at 17, 18
I feel like
years
nobody
old,
at 17, 18. I guess there's some outliers there, like the kids who are very respectful, but I feel like for the most part, every 17 and 18-year-old is going to be pretty immature.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and so like junior college for me, I wish I went to a junior college right away. Like I needed that. He turned me into a man.
I never got that experience, and I always wish I.
Oh, it's awesome.
I know. I wish I went straight to 4-year out of high school.
Yeah.
I had a chance to go play at CSM, but made the decision to go to 4-year. And I've always wondered, like, teetered on the side, like, what happens if you were a JUCO bandit? Like, where would we end up?
Yeah. But anyways, it was definitely more of an acceptance. So like once I had that other injury to my thumb, plus still battling through a bunch of other things that I've already gone through, like having that experience at the D1 level 2, knowing, all right, I'm not a D1 athlete. I'm not. Okay, fine. Accepted that, is what it is. Okay, like could I play D2? Yeah, and I had a couple D2s until I hurt myself, and then I couldn't play. They couldn't see me, and then they moved on because there's a bunch of other players out there, right?
That's just how it works.
And so I did have some NAI offers too, and for me at least, because I also experienced private school tuition as well. I did not want to take out more student loans, so it was kind of
And
it
to
was
start
really
off
a
there, too.
mature
Yeah.
and to start off there exactly. I had debt already.
Yeah.
I didn't want to compile that, so it was more of just a mature decision. But also like during the time that I was injured, I got kind of into coaching the other catchers.
Yeah.
Right. So I would coach the other catchers because they were a little bit farther behind than me, right? So I would take the catchers and I would just try to develop them, and they got a lot better. I mean, the backup catcher almost was good enough to where I got scared a little bit.
Like, wait. I need to teach you some different things.
Yeah. So then I found that, okay, I like coaching. You know, I talked to some of my assistant coaches at CRC, because Southern River College is where I went to junior JUCO. You know, I asked them about coaching. The first thing they told me was don't get into coaching, you know. But then I was like, okay, but honestly, on a serious note. And so they gave me a path. You know, he actually offered me a job there as a catching coach, like right when I was done. However, I just couldn't financially make it work.
Yeah.
So it's fine. And then I had other opportunities here. With JD, you know, and so then I just decided to hang him up and just go into coaching and move forward. And I was totally fine. Like I was still around the game.
Yeah, it's like
you know.
that's that acceptance piece I was talking about, because I feel like a lot of guys that, I mean, there's the typical like I had it in high school if I didn't hurt, you know what I mean, like if I didn't hurt my knee on the 50-yard line. Like,
Oh yeah, I'd be in the bigs right now.
exactly.
Right? Exactly.
And I feel like it's cool to hear people. I mean, I've come from it. And it's just the acceptance of being like, yeah, my career was good. Like I didn't have a bad career.
I gave it all.
I gave it everything
I gave it everything I had. I went to my limits. For me, it was basically, okay, go to an AIA, you know, play for 2 more years, be done, but also have $40,000 more in debt.
Yeah.
Or just go straight into coaching, which I already kind of found a passion for.
Yeah.
In JUCO when I was injured.
And so now going into the coaching piece, and we can go back to the start of Club All Star, but I asked BT the same question in the podcast, and obviously it's a little different when he's coaching his own kid, but when you started, and for me when I started, it was like kind of that flip of satisfaction to where now instead of me feeling good that I made a coach happy, it's like now I'm happy because I taught someone something and they got it.
Yeah.
Like it was a weird dynamic flip that happened. Was that the same satisfaction you got? Was it like you being able to say something and then seeing a kid be able to do what you said correctly? Like that, I feel like that is where, I don't know, I guess that's where the satisfaction comes in from a coach, but from your perspective, is that kind of what it was?
Yeah, so, I mean, because once you get into coaching, it's not about you anymore.
No.
It's not. It's not. It's about giving back. Like, you don't go into coaching for the paycheck. You don't go into coaching for glory. Some people do, but, some people do, but you shouldn't, right? You go into coaching to make an impact.
Yeah, and I feel like the guys who do it for the wrong reasons always end up being shoved out because it's a weird thing, and it's like I've noticed this with most sports in general. Like the really good coaches can, like when you put them on the same field, it's so obvious who's good and who's not, and like those good guys kind of get shoved out to the side, and they get really upset by it because they think they have this winning record, and they it's like, but in reality, you're not developing.
No,
like good for you. You won a 12-year-old tournament, like cool.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
in 6 years, is he going to be able to do anything?
Well, and that's the thing. Like I see a lot of different coaches who go out there and they trophy chase.
Yep.
Right now, going into a little bit of travel ball, they trophy chase.
That's a whole separate podcast.
Golly, they just get the most physical kids at that age, you know. And then we'll coach against them. We'll lose. They'll win. They get the tournament. They get the trophy. They get the Instagram post. Fantastic. Good for you guys. Okay. But then like I'll ask some of the other players I have in high school right now, hey, you remember this guy, yada, 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 what's he doing now? And they're like, oh, I don't know.
Nothing.
I have no clue. I don't know. You know, I've never heard of him again. But like for me, I think the most satisfaction I've gotten in a season, it wasn't the best team. Okay. Yeah. Like my favorite season was with this one team who they were okay, you know, but we were losing. I think our fall record was like 6-17. Okay, and we were playing AA level. But then by the end of the season, they took second place in a major level tournament.
Oh,
And they got better, and they all played in high school.
Yeah.
They all had good high school careers. Some of them are playing in junior college and in colleges somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So that was they weren't my best team,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But they got better. They developed. We didn't win a single tournament that year.
Yeah.
However, they got better. They developed. I saw them play in high school, and they had good high school careers. And I saw them play, and now some of them are going into college and playing baseball in college, which is great. That's what it's about. 'Cause it's not about you anymore. No, it's like what impact can you give to the next generation?
So I asked Avery this last week, and it's not to his fault, but he just wasn't here long enough to be able to see the development of true players through that age up to high school.
Okay.
What would you say is that factor that allows those kids to be able to actually develop? Obviously, there's work ethic, there's just paying attention, and there's all this kinds of stuff that they have. But what have you seen at Club All-Star that allows these kids to develop in such a way?
Yeah, so it's it's work ethic, right? Like you gotta want it. We practice 2 times a week for 3 hours. Good training, good facilities. We make sure we have solid practice plans. However, it's the kids who came in and used the facilities on their own that have gotten exponentially better, And it's also the kids who that room over there, which is, I'm pointing this way for the camera and for the audience. It's the weight room.
Yeah,
it's the weight room.
There you go.
But it's those athletes that just want to get better.
Yeah.
That want to get better. They ask questions, and they ask the right questions. You know what I mean? And it's not just the kids who you'll say something and then they'll nod like, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
And then they don't. It's the kids that want to learn, that ask the right questions and continue to ask questions until they fully understand it.
Yeah.
And you as a coach, if a player doesn't understand, you have to be creative and find different ways to try to get it through to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you can't talk to every kid the same. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's obviously you can talk to them the same when they're in a group, but when you're trying to get them to understand in one-on-one certain situations, you obviously can't talk to the same way you would talk to different kids.
Right.
But so do you feel that work ethic, and it could be like a bunch of stuff, right? It could be the area that we're in, it could be the culture that you guys coaches have started, or it could have been the kids that were early on here that they just decided we're going to work really hard and we're going to do it this way, and that's how it's going to be done. How have you seen, obviously since you came in from the first couple of years of Club All-Star, talk about from when you were 13 and 14, how that coaching, how you've seen either Club All-Star as a whole develop, or kind of the culture has kind of just stayed the same throughout?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Just because we have a bunch of coaches, right? And
a bunch of good coaches.
Good coaches, right? And so, every year we add a coach. Like you're coming on this year, so it's good to add. By the way, I recruited him.
He did.
Just saying. Anyway,
Twin Creeks.
I did.
He did.
Yeah. We won't talk about the game.
No, we will not talk about the game. We don't ever need to talk about that game.
But anyway, so every coach brings their own style.
Yeah.
Every coach brings their own style. So always, the culture is always changing a little bit. As long as you bring in the right guys and the right coaches, which I believe we do, who want to work just as hard as the kids to get better, because you can always learn more as a coach.
For sure.
You can always learn more as a coach. Go to ABCA events, which our boss JD, he's very gracious enough to always take us to every year, which is great. Or just watching baseball too,
right?
Listening to podcasts. So the coaches that we bring on, the best ones, and the ones who kind of impart their own work ethic, and kids can see that to kind of be an example to. Usually that sets the culture right into imparting that on the kids. But also coaches, for me, Coach Damien, he was very demanding. I said that earlier, but he was very demanding, and so you coach work ethic into your kids.
Yeah.
Hey, I fielded a ground ball, I didn't do it right. Okay, but as a kid, sometimes you're oh, I just did the task. Yeah. Right. But then Coach Damien's no, you did not. You didn't.
Yeah.
You weren't successful. You gotta want to learn how to do it the right way. You gotta want to make your adjustments.
That's
and
perfect.
So you can coach work ethic into you, and I think that comes from having a good work ethic.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And
so that's where I see the kind of the culture of Club All Star.
For sure. And we talked about this last week with Avery, and it's interesting to hear you say that because there is a lot going on here. There is a dynamic that we have and an expectation we have from these players to be able to put in work and do things the right way. And I asked Avery last week, and I was like, have you ever noticed, and you can even talk about it from your perspective as a player, has there ever been a situation where there's just too much going on for a kid, right? It's just, he's overwhelmed to the fact of like, what is all of this, right? And that's fine.
Yeah.
But how do you see those kids kind of interact with the kids that have really good work ethic?
That's a really good question. So, like for me, back then, the biggest tech that we had was this video camera.
Just take video of yourself.
Like I think JD bought a TiVo one time.
Yeah, it's a Sony, just like on a tripod.
It was on like a stand.
Oh,
actually,
God.
like similar to this. It was on a stand similar to this. It was a screen, and then he had a TiVo hooked up to a camera. So then you record.
That's great.
And you watch it on the screen.
Yep.
You know, while it's
And
also
you can play
recording.
it back.
You
Yep.
can play back on the TiVo, and you know. So that was pretty much the biggest tech back then. Like when I was playing, at least. I'm only 27, so I'm still kind of young-ish.
No, for sure.
Getting there. You know, but nowadays, like we have the hit tracks, we have Rapsoda, we have TrackMan, we have Blast Motion, so it can be overwhelming to a kid, and sometimes those kids will look at it almost like an idol. Like, hey, if I took a good swing, but I capped it, I got like a 50 exit velo. That's a bad swing, but no, like maybe your timing was wrong. Maybe you just hit it a little bit too far off front. It was too deep. The swing was good, but then they go out here, catch a barrel, roll over to the pool side, 62. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, that was a good rep. No, it wasn't. You know, so sometimes for a kid, it can be overwhelming, but I think for us as coaches, we have to then define like what is actually a good rep, what is success, how do we monitor it in a way to where they are getting good work and also using the numbers to their advantage. Now going back to how some kids with more work ethic deal with some of the kids with a little bit lower work ethic. I mean, you can see that they get frustrated. But then again, it comes back to coaching, right? Well, it's like, okay, like I see you're getting frustrated with him, but this is how you go about it.
Yep.
You know, and that's just teaching. That's teaching baseball, but that's teaching life lessons through the game.
For sure. No, absolutely.
And so, like, these kids. Kids are kind of harsh sometimes, right, to other kids. Especially nowadays. They have no filter.
They are ruthless.
They have no filter because their phones have no filter, right?
True.
But anyways, so, like, they'll get on this guy hard and in the wrong way, and then you have to tell them, hey, let's talk about it this way. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying, like, don't get on this kid. Like,
there's a difference between banter and just bullying.
There's a difference between, bullying and leadership.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Bullying and leadership. Like, a leader will get on him in a way to where he has to up his level.
It's constructive,
right? That's constructive where he has to up his level instead of bullying to where now he feels bad about himself and
he's scared to do another rep.
And he's scared to do another rep. He's scared to do another rep, scared to fail, scared to do whatever and make adjustments, right? So then they get put in a shell. So that's another part of where it was just good coaching comes into play, which I think we do pretty well here.
No, we do a great job. And I also would say we do and being here for, this would be a month. So being here for a month, I would say that you guys do, and obviously I hang out with you and Avery for most of the days, and we coach, us three are kind of doing mostly everything around here, but the people that are here, they do a very good job of being able to relate life situations to baseball, right? It's not just, hey, I don't want you getting upset at this ground ball because you missed it. Like, just don't be a baby, right? There's coaches that go like, well, if you mess up at school, like, it's fine, right? You still have another chance to get another.
Yeah, you have another test.
Exactly. And so like, there's different ways that you guys go about it, and I feel like that's a really good thing that you guys do. So now jumping back to Cisco, fresh out of college.
Okay.
how do you feel that Cisco now, what advice would you give Cisco coming out of college as a coach?
Uh, be a little bit more realistic and a little bit humbler. Honestly, like for me, I thought, I was coached under Tony Bloomfield, who's a fantastic junior college coach.
Yes. And pretty good high school coaches as well, you were.
And good high school coaches, good travel ball coaches. I had Pete Pyle, Rob Sella, Randy Ortega in high school, Damian, JD, in travel ball, right? So I've been coached by really good coaches, even at the D1 level. Eric Valenzuela, like he's really
Who's back at St. Mary's.
He's back at St. Mary's, and I hope he stays at St. Mary's because he is awesome. But anyway, so coming out of college, I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing.
This is it.
I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna write this practice plan out. It's gonna be perfect. It's gonna be organized, and I'm not gonna lie, it was super organized, right? And I still do that. It is very organized. I have time schedules for everything. I have a structure for everything. But I thought I was gonna go in and I was gonna make these kids absolute superstars and studs. And unfortunately, which it was good, but I won my very first tournament. I won my very first tournament.
You're already coming in like this.
I was like, oh my gosh, I am
the
so
greatest.
good. And then the parents are just filling my ego. And oh man. And then that season went a little sideways for a little bit. I had to humble myself, like, hey, like reevaluate what I was doing. Reevaluate, okay, this is what I think we should do, but what do the kids need?
For sure.
What do the kids need? Like, if I get this kid to be, just a little bit better in this aspect, instead of wanting this kid to be here, right? But he just doesn't have, one, the mental capacity or the physical ability at this time because they're 11 years old,
for real.
at this time to be there. Well, then it's okay. Let's be a little bit more realistic. Let's, be a better coach and try to get him here. And then next year, let's try to get him here instead of trying to jump the gun and,
You're skipping steps.
Exactly. So that's the advice that I would give, and I would give any young coach, like, hey, this is, if you've played, like, it's a humbling game. Even coaching-wise, it's a humbling game. And
It's a cool game.
Do not what you think you should do, but do what your players need.
And that brings up another topic, but I feel like, and especially here, and I know for certain.
And always learn. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no. Make sure. And that's, I'll cut myself off, but like that is the willingness to be able to learn and understand. And I've come with that being. Obviously, I grew up with a pretty strict dad, but he taught me that certain things are for certain people in areas of knowledge. People know better than you. So don't think that you got it all figured out, and then some guy comes with an idea, and you're like, yeah, but I didn't come up with that idea, so it doesn't matter, right? And I feel like here, everybody bounces ideas off of each other. I feel like every morning we come in, and Avery's written my lineup, you've written my lineup, I've written two of your lineups, right? We're just trying to get other people to understand where our heads are at, so that we can all work as a unit.
Yeah, and then get different perspectives on that, to then come to like, okay, like, hey, why do you think it should be this way? Why do you think it should be this way? Okay, this is what I think. And then we have that discussion, and then we end up with, usually a better way than just by ourselves.
And that leads me back to my point in saying that I feel very strongly in being able to say that this place is a very athlete-first facility. From the weight room to BT, from to you guys, there is a sense of wanting to make sure that the athlete is always okay, whether the coach has to stay late, has to come early, right? I feel like a lot of people get upset in day-to-day life, and they're just like, oh God, I have to go in early to help out so-and-so, or I have to stay later to help out so-and-so. It's like, yeah, does it suck that you have to stay an extra 30 minutes to help somebody? Like, cool. But in the long scheme of things, like, you're helping that kid not only build relationships with humans, but like also teaching them the way to do things correctly.
Right. I mean, that's going into like, okay, do you have a good work ethic as a coach? If you don't have a good work ethic as a coach, how do you expect your players to have a good work ethic? Like, where's the example there? Yeah.
All right. I think that's it.
All right. That was a good first one.
It was amazing. Actually, I'm gonna wrap. We're not it.
Okay, never
One
mind.
more question. I asked Avery this and I asked BT this, and you being the most tenured guy here, obviously this is going to be a perfect question for you. But what in your mind is the future for Club All Star?
The future for club? That's a loaded question. That's
Indeed.
good. Well, we're always trying to improve. I mean, just you've been here a month, but like JD always has a bunch of different ideas going through his head, just on how can we make our athletes better.
Yep.
So we're always trying to improve our processes, whether that's a practice structure, whether that's making an improvement to a facility, that we need. Like right now we're talking about maybe putting up a cage in the bullpen area just to give more hitting space for guys, because the cages can get crowded sometimes. And we don't want kids to have to wait or get turned away to get their extra reps in. So future-wise, I think like there's a bunch of growth here that we still need to do. I mean, we've been here for 20 years. This is our 20th year, and we're always continuously trying to improve. And I think like there isn't a like final like that's
place,
it. And every year like we learn something different, or how something can be done more efficiently, or how something can be something can just be done better. And so like us as coaches and just as an organization, we don't want to be stuck in our ways, and we want to continually grow if we see that it is more efficient and it's actually a better way to do things. So future wise, it's tough to say, just because I don't see a final. I just see continuous growth, and that's just from top down. That's from JD. Always wanting to continue to grow, and so he instills that in our long-term coaches, me, you, Avery, or full-time staff here, and then that will trickle down in our coaches meetings into some of the guys who are newer, some of the guys who have also been here a while. Like actually, J-Rod is technically the most tenured coach here. I'm probably the most tenured long-term guy here.
That is true.
Or full-time guy here.
Sorry, J-Rod.
But yeah, so future-wise, just continuous growth and development, and just trying to continue to do things better and more efficiently.
All right, guys, thank you very much for listening to and watching, if you're watching this on YouTube, to the All Stars Club podcast. Please go leave a review on applepodcast.com. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you liked anything here, please just leave a comment down below on what you liked, what you want to hear, who you want to see on the podcast next. And then if you didn't learn anything from this podcast, please watch it again, because there was a lot of insightful things that Cisco dropped on us, right? The willingness to learn, the understanding that we don't have to be complacent all the time, and then just Cisco's story in general. So if you really liked what we saw here, please, again, like, subscribe, comment, and then go follow us and leave a review on applepodcast.com. We will see you guys next time.